Picture this. June 2023, NBA Draft Night. All eyes are on a 7'4" French basketball phenomenon, Victor Wembanyama, a once-in-a-generation prospect destined to go number one. Right behind him, another prodigy, Scoot Henderson, is touted as a future superstar point guard. In the midst of this hype, the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock with the second overall pick. The basketball world holds its breath. Will they pick Scoot, as many expect, or go a different route? To the surprise of some, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver steps up and announces,
with the second pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Brandon Miller from the University of Alabama.
The pressure on the 20-year-old is immense. He's entering the league in the shadow of Wembanyama's towering expectations and alongside Henderson's explosive reputation. Some analysts even question Charlotte's choice, giving the Miller pick a middling grade, implying the Hornets might have made a mistake. Brandon Miller is instantly cast as an underdog in a draft class featuring a unicorn and a G League superstar. But Brandon Miller was the Hornets guy all along. In fact, Charlotte's front office had zero doubts internally. They saw something special.
Well, yeah, obviously there were two players that were heavily considered at that position, and Brandon was the favorite all along.
They believed Miller's skill set and fit with the team would justify the pick, even if outsiders had their doubts. As Miller donned the Hornets cap and posed on stage, he knew the expectations were sky high. He'd be joining All-Star guard LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, forming a young duo the franchise hoped would lead them back to relevance. The stage is set. Brandon Miller isn't just battling opponents on the court, he's battling the weight of expectations and comparisons to the classmates who bookended him on draft night. This is where our story begins. A young man under the spotlight of a historic draft, eager to prove he belongs. But even before Brandon's NBA journey kicked off, he was carrying a burden far heavier than draft night pressure. Rewind a few months to his college days at Alabama, a season of accolades and adversity. In early 2023, Miller's name became linked to a tragic off-court incident, a fatal shooting near campus. Court testimony revealed that a former teammate had texted Miller to bring him a firearm on the night of the incident. Miller complied. The gun belonged to the teammate, and shortly after, that weapon was used to take an innocent life. The revelation cast a dark cloud over Miller's rising stardom. Important to note, Brandon Miller was not charged with any crime, and authorities considered him a cooperating witness. Still, the court of public opinion was harsh. Headlines swirled and pundits debated his judgment. How could a young athlete on the cusp of greatness find himself entangled in such a situation? Miller later reflected on it with maturity beyond his years. Facing NBA teams' questions during the draft combine, he didn't dodge responsibility. "It's all a lesson learned," he said of that night. He spoke openly about the need to be aware of who and what you surround yourself with, acknowledging that one pivotal moment could have changed his career in less than a heartbeat. This was a crucial chapter in Miller's journey. Instead of letting the controversy define him, Brandon used it as fuel for personal growth. He carried the weight of that incident, the scrutiny, the criticism, the heavy heart knowing a life was lost, and resolved to move forward without letting it derail his dream. As draft night came, that shadow still lingered, but Miller stood tall, owning up to his past and determined to write a new story in the NBA. Before the NBA and before the controversy, Brandon Miller was making big waves in college basketball. Let's rewind to where his stardom truly began, the University of Alabama. In the 2022-23 season, Miller exploded onto the scene as arguably the best freshman in the country. He led the Crimson Tide to one of their greatest seasons ever. Miller averaged 18.8 points and 8.2 rebounds per game as a freshman, leading the entire SEC in scoring. At 6'9", he was a matchup nightmare, drilling three-pointers at a 43% clip and displaying a silky shooting stroke well beyond his years. Scouts were salivating at his pro potential. A tall wing with elite shooting ability and defensive upside, the prototype of a modern NBA forward. Brandon didn't just put up numbers, he collected hardware. He swept the SEC's postseason awards, capturing both Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year honors. He was the first freshman in SEC history to do that in nearly 40 years. He also earned first-team All-SEC and was named a consensus second-team All-American, meaning he was recognized as one of the top 10 players in the nation. Simply put, Miller was a college superstar. If you're wondering what made NBA teams so high on him, consider this. In February 2023, with hostile fans booing him on the road amid the aforementioned controversy, Miller dropped a career-high 41 points in an overtime win against South Carolina. Under pressure and scrutiny, he delivered an all-time performance for Alabama. He followed that up by leading his team to the SEC tournament title, averaging 20.3 points and 11 rebounds in the tourney and earning MVP honors. Time and again, Miller proved he could rise to the occasion when it mattered. By the time the 2023 NBA draft rolled around, Brandon Miller had convinced many he was a top prospect. Yes, there were questions. A few scouts wondered about his elite athleticism and if he could create separation off the dribble at the next level. But his combination of size, skill, and shooting was undeniable. The Hornets saw a player who could transform their franchise. In the words of one draft analyst, Miller and LaMelo Ball could form a deadly duo of tall playmakers and shooters. That vision is what led Charlotte to call his name at number 2. Miller's college journey, marked by triumphs on the court and tests of character off it, set the stage for an NBA career loaded with promise. Fast forward to late October 2023. The NBA season tips off and Brandon Miller is officially a Charlotte Hornet. The doubts and drama of the offseason are behind him. Now it's all about basketball. So, how did his rookie season go? Miller made an immediate impact. In his very first NBA game, he scored 13 points to help Charlotte secure a win in the season opener. It was a solid debut, not jaw-dropping, but a glimpse of his scoring ability at the pro level. From there, the rookie experienced the typical ups and downs of adjusting to the NBA. By November, Brandon started showing flashes of the star he could become. On November 18, 2023, facing the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden, basketball's biggest stage, Miller poured in a then career-high 29 points. He was fearless, scoring at all 3 levels and silencing a raucous New York City crowd with each jumper. A couple months later, on February 4, 2024, he one-upped himself, exploding for 35 points against the Indiana Pacers. Even though the Hornets lost that night, Miller's offensive arsenal was on full display. Step-back threes, aggressive drives to the hoop, pull-up mid-range shots. He was starting to look like the go-to scorer Charlotte envisioned. Game by game, Miller grew more confident. He became a fixture in the starting lineup, ultimately starting 68 of 74 games as a rookie. By season's end, his numbers spoke volumes: 17.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 2.4 assists per game. For context, those stats are on par with some of the best rookie seasons in recent memory. In fact, Miller's three-point shooting stood out. He hit 184 threes that year, one of the highest rookie totals ever recorded. He proved the pre-draft hype about his shooting was very real, sinking about 2.5 triples a night at a respectable 37% clip. It wasn't just about numbers, though. Brandon showed resilience. Whenever he hit a rookie wall, he bounced back with a big game. Whenever teams tested him physically, he didn't back down. By April 2024, any notion that he didn't deserve to be the second pick had faded. He earned a spot on the NBA's all-rookie first team, solidifying himself as one of the 5 best rookies of his class. He even finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting, behind only Wembanyama and Holmgren, a testament to how far he'd come in silencing the doubters. The Hornets may have had a tough season as a team, wins were hard to come by, but their young forward was a bright spot. Brandon's rookie year was about learning and proving. He learned the speed and physicality of the NBA game, and he proved he could adapt and still shine. The kid who some said wasn't the second best player in his draft class was now looking like a future star in the making. Just as Brandon Miller began to soar, life threw another curveball his way. The start of his second NBA season was electrifying. Miller picked up right where he left off. In November 2024, he dropped a new career-high 38 points in an overtime victory against Detroit, signaling that a sophomore leap was in full effect. By mid-season, he was averaging 21 points per game and looking every bit like the franchise cornerstone Charlotte hoped for. Then, adversity struck again. this time in the form of an injury. In January 2025, Miller suffered a wrist injury, a torn scapholonate ligament, on his shooting hand. It required surgery and ended his season after just 27 games. For a young player brimming with confidence, having to watch from the sidelines was a tough blow. The Hornets struggled without him, and Miller could only support from the bench as his team missed the playoffs yet again. But true to his story, Brandon approached this setback with the mindset of growth. Instead of letting the injury discourage him, he turned it into an off-season of improvement. He rebuilt strength in that wrist and studied film, looking for every edge to come back stronger. Coaches noted how engaged he was even while injured, constantly learning, staying positive, and motivating teammates. In interviews heading into the next season, a fully healthy Miller struck a determined tone. He talked about refining all aspects of his game, becoming a better defender, a better playmaker, and a leader for his young team. The doubts from draft night? Long gone. Now the questions were, how good can Brandon Miller become? And can he carry Charlotte to success? With training camp for the 2025-26 season underway, Miller was hungry. He put in extra hours to improve his lateral quickness and defensive awareness, areas he knew he could get better at. Already blessed with length and effort on defense, he worked on his anticipation and core strength, aiming to turn himself into a true two-way force on the wing. Offensively, he focused on expanding his arsenal, attacking the basket more ferociously and not just relying on jump shots. Coaches raved about his work ethic, noting how he'd spend early mornings perfecting his ball handling and finishing through contact. Brandon also embraced a bigger leadership role. At just 22 years old, he's a key piece of one of the league's youngest teams. He's spoken about helping build a winning culture in Charlotte, something the franchise desperately needs as it carries a long playoff drought. Teaming up with LaMelo Ball and new veteran additions, Miller is setting out not only to elevate his game, but to elevate everyone around him. So here we stand on the verge of a new season. Brandon Miller, battle-tested by controversy, steeled by personal trials, and fresh off an injury comeback, is poised to take the next step. The Rising Star label is there for the taking. All the talent, all the growth, all the hard lessons. They're about to converge in a pivotal chapter of his career. Brandon Miller's journey has been anything but easy. From carrying the expectations of being a number 2 draft pick, to enduring intense public scrutiny over off-court events, to navigating the learning curve of the NBA and the setback of injury, he has faced more adversity in 2 years than some athletes face in a decade. And yet, every time, he's risen above. Every doubt became motivation. Every challenge became a lesson. What makes Brandon's story so inspiring is not just the points he's scored or the records he's set, but the way he's grown as a person. He transformed early criticism into determination. He turned a painful incident into wisdom and maturity. He answered those who questioned him by letting his game do the talking, whether that was a 41-point statement in college or a string of stellar performances as a pro. Instead of wilting under pressure, Brandon thrives in it. Instead of running from mistakes, he learns from them. In many ways, Brandon Miller embodies the idea that growth blooms in adversity. His journey is a testament to the power of perseverance and self-belief. For the Hornets, he's become a beacon of hope, the kind of player who can change the trajectory of a franchise. For fans, he's a reminder that behind every highlight reel is a human being who's overcome struggles we might never see on the surface. Now, as we watch Brandon Miller gear up for the next chapter, aiming to lead Charlotte upward and establish himself among the NBA's new generation of stars, we can't help but root for him. Not just because of his silky jump shot or his stat lines, but because of the heart he's shown in forging his path. Take a moment to reflect on Brandon's journey and what it means to rise above doubt and scrutiny. Think about the times in your own life when others have doubted you, or when you've faced obstacles that seemed insurmountable. How did you respond? Brandon's story challenges us to meet our struggles head-on, to keep faith in ourselves when few others do, and to put in the work to turn doubt into belief. So the next time you encounter adversity, remember Brandon Miller. Remember how a young man from Antioch, Tennessee, rose from controversy, silenced the skeptics, and kept pushing forward. Ask yourself, how will you rise above? If Brandon's journey resonated with you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories of overcoming challenges. And of course, If you enjoyed this deep dive into an NBA Rising Stars story, hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring sports content. Thank you for watching, and remember, like Brandon Miller, never let the doubters define your destiny. Keep rising above.